Hi, everyone. My name is Emma. As Carolyn just said, I work at Sojourner Library, and I am a circulation supervisor, as well as the course reserves manager. Is anybody familiar with course reserves? Yay, good amount of people. Our academic library people probably have a good idea. But in case anybody isn't aware, course reserves are what we call short-term loans. They're usually kept behind the desk in a spot that isn't accessible by the general public or students, and they're typically academic items. So 2-hour loan in-house, 4-hour in-house. You have a few items that are overnight loan, a 3-day loan. They're typically much shorter than your typical loan period is. So this is just a basic content overview. We're first going to go over the issues I recognized in the course system when I started in September of 2024 as the course manager. Then we're going to talk about the changes I implemented. They're going to be generally within 2 categories: policy and procedure and agency and outreach. Next, we're going to talk about the issues. There's a lot of issues that we still have and that we need to confront. Some of them are within our control, some of them are not. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we'll talk about some of the initiatives I've planned for the next academic year and some that have already started this spring semester thus far. So let's talk about the issues I stepped into. So general context. Before I started, we only had 2 full-time circulation staff working. So the course reserve system collection wasn't touched at all, probably in a few years. So the first thing I noticed that was that we didn't do any promotion for it. This collection sat behind the desk, collected dust. There was no library sponsored promotion. We didn't do anything on our social media. Our social media was also dead. So that was also a dead end. So that was an issue. Items that were kept on reserve, they weren't searchable via our catalog. So items would be on reserve for so long, they were untouched for so long that our records would lose them. They wouldn't be updated in our records because they're short-term items, they need to be continually updated per academic year. So we weren't able to do that, and thus they were not searchable even when using specific filters such as the course reserves filter. Also, our student assistants, our wonderful, wonderful student assistants, had no idea that it existed, the course reserves catalog. And it's a wonderful resource, and you can do so much and filter it so well with metadata that you can enter a professor's name and all their books can come up in a theory. But because students didn't know about it, it wasn't being used. Books were on the shelf. Students didn't know they existed. And when students asked for them, we couldn't find them because students didn't know they could search for them. So it was a kind of back and forth mindless hole of misery. Also, maintenance. Instructors, we still have a very, very big issue where professors just expect us to keep their items for years. I don't want to diss professors. I love the professors. I love working with them. But also they would keep items on for 6, 7 years. They would go on sabbatical. They would leave the college and their items would still be on our shelves, or they'd be in storage and they would never come and pick them up. So I needed to get those items moving and I needed to do it fast because I was annoyed by it. Also, we needed to start tracking and weeding what we call department reserves. Department reserves are reserves that we as library staff put on. Things like calculators, usually donated textbooks and things that are kept track of. In theory, they were not being kept track of. We had very, very old and very, very large amounts of random items on there. We also had very inconsistent metadata creation. When I catalog reserves, because they're temporary, they don't get fully cataloged with original cataloging or even copy cataloging. I do the records myself. But that means that every person who cataloged items was in a different headspace. Someone would put the title and the author, but not the edition. Duplicate records would not match. Same book would have 2 different records, and the information would be spelled out, not standardized at all. That was an issue in terms of findability. And then lastly, communication was, I think, our biggest issue at all. Professors just didn't know the service existed because we didn't tell them it existed. There was no introductory email, which made me very upset. Because how are they supposed to know? A visiting professor visiting a new adjunct, how are they supposed to know that the service is available to them? And their students were missing out on potentially hundreds of dollars worth of savings. And textbooks are expensive, as we know, especially the Math 101, English 101 ones. They can go up to $300. So that needed to be fixed. Let's talk about the action plan. So I categorized my action plan into 2 distinct categories. The first one was a little bit more boring, but I enjoy it. It's the logistical storage, updating policy, updating procedure, figuring out how we're getting those books moving, that kind of logistical stuff. Second, promotion. We need this collection if it's going to survive or actually be present to be visible. And how are we going to do that? So first, let's talk about procedural reinforcement. There are basically 5 items I prioritized to make the standardization of books more conceivable and applicable to all staff members who might um, be open to cross-training. So first, I sat down with my lovely manager, Jen, and I was able to revamp the publicly available course reserves page that had sat idle for about 8 years at that point. So we took out everything that didn't apply, which was most of it, and we put in some new policies. And the biggest thing about this was we were going to follow these policies no matter what. We can't just fly on a whim anymore and make up our own rules as we go as we had been doing in the past. We were going to actually refer people back to the policy, which was really big. Making the books move. I was determined if a professor had a book in storage or if the book needed to come off reserve, it was going to them. I didn't care how. So what I did was I recruited our lovely student assistants and I gave them a truck and I teamed up with our administrative assistants who also wanted to see the professors actually grab their books back without having to be bothered constantly about it. And we sent student assistants with deliveries. The professors had to get their books back because we were physically making them take them. So that was amazing. It's a lovely summer project for the student assistants. Third, standardized practices. I've created a manual. I'm not a cataloger by any means. I'm in library school. I'm not there yet, but I created a basic formatting guidelines that I can hand to anybody who's creating quick cataloging records. I also standardized inventory and weeding. So now every semester I go through the books, look at any new additions that have popped up, look at any items that I might put on probation, which just means they're sitting there for another semester. We're going to see how their usage does with promotion and then take them off if necessary. And I also increase documentation, which is just as it sounds, just making sure everything I do has a spreadsheet or a document assigned to it and that I'm following it and updating it regularly. Agency and outreach is my favorite. I think it's more fun. But social media promotion. Coincidentally, our social media, Instagram started up again the same time I started this revamp of the collection. So I took advantage of that. And I was also on the social media team. So I have promoted the heck out of these course reserves. We've done, what's your favorite course reserve with the student assistants? We've done course reserve of the week. I did a cute little, the next bombshell in the villa, cute little TikTok video that I'm releasing next week. We've also involved the campus. So Elting is somebody that we work with. We have zine making kits that students can take out and take out of the library. We also have portfolios that we've teamed up with the CRC to create. And the new, most exciting innovation we have are hammocks and outdoor blankets. New Paltz is a huge hammock campus. Everyone just lays out in hammocks constantly. It's like a cultural thing. I don't know. But the students love taking the hammocks out, and I'm hoping they'll get even more usage once the weather finally gets nice again. Um, Department reserves and shared reserves. I found that a lot of students would use the same books, but they'd be under different professors. The same professor or different professors in the same department would teach the same class, use the same book, but students didn't know how to ask for it. They didn't know which name to ask under for it. I gave professors the option to create a shared reserve, and they were able to combine and curate a beautiful collection of all the reserves. A beautiful category is human services. A lot of our sociology professors teach the same kinds of classes, and they have come together and created a human services category, and it's very, very popular right now. Introductory emails were my wonderful, wonderful idea that I have finally started to enact. So every semester, fac staff gets a long email, basic info, link to the policy, and also a recommendation to follow up with Madeline, who is our collection development librarian, to purchase items and help professors along if they don't have personal items to give for the reserves collection. And also, again, documentation with that. Prevailing issues. I'm going to kind of lump the first two, the policy and the loan periods, into one. Our biggest issue at SUNY New Paltz, Sojourner Truth Library, is that we lack overdue/replacement policy. There is no way to pay fines. We have no way to kind of incentivize students to bring back items unless we repeatedly email them and try to get their accounts temporarily blocked. But we can block accounts, but that doesn't mean that they're going to bring the item back. So my question right now is making overnight items a good idea when students are repeatedly not bringing them back? An overnight, we had a calculator. we have one graphing calculator. It went out for an overnight loan. I didn't see it for 3 months, and I couldn't do anything about it. Students were coming up, can I use the graphing calculator? No, I don't have any more. And the student has had it out for 3 months. I didn't say that, but that's what I was thinking. So that's a big issue, but I also want to make sure we're making overnight items accessible for commuter students or students who may find it more comfortable or more safe to work in their dorm rooms. So I'm constantly toying with that line of how do I sacrifice accessibility for availability and et cetera. Um, Demand has increased because everybody knows about course reserves now. I've made it very clear that we're here. So space and storage have become an issue. And professors, they've started to add more to the collection. I had a professor recently come to the library and give us 50 items for course reserve. I had to catalog each one, but now I'm thinking about, should I put an item limit on the course reserves? Should I just allow professors to give us required items? And how much into supplemental do I go? And is our supplemental resources used for student research and extracurricular activities? Should those be considered required? Because those can be expensive. And we do want to be sustainable and be able to help students financially. Because that's what the library is here for. Going forward, my projects right now. So last summer, I had a math professor come in. She had never put anything on course reserve before, but she had seen one of my introductory emails and was interested in putting some items on reserve. So it was a math professor, and we talked a little bit. And I told her how many donations we've gotten of calculators and different items that related to the math department. And she told her students about it, which is amazing. And her colleagues told their students about it, which meant that we had a flood of students coming in to borrow our overnight calculators. The issue is they're not coming back, first of all. So students are keeping them for 3 months, and we don't have enough of them. So what I did was I reached out to fact staff again. They're a wonderful resource. If you have a fact staff email, use it. It's annoying when you get the emails, but when you actually need to do it, they're really helpful. So I reached out to them, and a lot of them had wonderful donations that they could give to us. And I've gotten about 10 to 15 calculators so far. We also added business calculators, which was an recommendation given to me as a reply from that original email. Board game collection just started. If you have a Buy Nothing group on Facebook, use it for your library. I can't recommend it enough. I got sealed board games for free from a Facebook group from someone whose husband worked with my wife in campus. He, he actually came in and just gave me all the board games. I didn't know he existed. He didn't know I existed. So now I've got all these board games and the students are loving them. These are really helpful for RAs who lead a lot of programming. They do a lot of resident hall game nights, and they've become increasingly popular with that. And again, we're promoting the heck out of them on social media, so that I'm sure that's helping a little bit. Lastly is my goal, semester staples. I think it'd be really fun, rather than just send usage reports to professors as I'm doing 2 times a semester, to kind of gamify it a little bit and be like, these are the top 10 items that were taken out over the semester. I think students would like that. And I think it would kind of create more incentive to take out items and get your favorite items onto the leaderboard, which would be fun. So that's my dream, but we'll see if it happens. That'll be fall 26 because I don't have the time right now for that. That's all I have. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
But probably not money paid by the game at present rate. What would be as part of the process?
Of gamifying the library?
Well, specifically gamifying the process. Maybe something that's like gamifying, incentivizing students to bring calculators back.
Oh, so you're asking if I have any ideas about gamifying oh, okay, so we're talking about what other opportunities for gamification. I haven't thought about that much. All I've done is send repetitive emails to students. I think maybe something that we could do is kind of have a raffle every time you bring something back. Student's name goes in there and that'd be kind of cool, I think. Yeah. It's kind of messed up that we have to do that to get people to bring stuff back, but yeah, it does. Okay. Right. Thank you.